Hey, this is my giant, well, medium-sized slot car track. When I was a little kid, we had the little AFX slot cars, and we had a big 4-lane track. So I always really dug that, but like when I was older, I went into a hobbyist shop and saw one of these, and I didn't even at the time realize that they made slot cars that are big. And what that means is that it's a little bit more nuanced in how you drive them. For those that may not know, you're on a track here, so steering isn't a thing, but how much throttle you give it is a thing. So because you can only go so fast around some of these corners, and so therefore you can't just pull the trigger and go. You have to so that's where the skill comes in. I never got past the fact that, with those little ones, it just seems like you're just going fast and there's less, throttle nuance. There's less skill involved. But when I got a chance to try one of these, you have a lot more control around how you go around the track because they're not quite going as fast at the scale. But also, it's a heavier car, so you tend to drift out and that kind of stuff. And these come with magnets, but sometimes people take the magnets out, so it's even more, drifty. When I started getting this stuff, there was that constant ebb and flow of interest, I guess. Because I have so many other hobbies and things that I tend to get sidetracked all the time. So with something like this, at the end of the day, you're just racing a car around a track. So it kind of feels like that doesn't hold my interest as long. So the idea with this is that the interest is in building a track. And I've built different variations of these sets that I have of this in different locations in my house and that kind of stuff. But I would always end up not using it very much. And so and it takes up a lot of space. So there was just constant struggle with there's that racetrack that I set up and never use. So maybe I should put it all away and use that space for something else. But finally, having this space for my shop, studio, whatnot, when I built this, I purposefully made it so that the ceilings were really high, with the idea being that eventually I could do some sort of a winch system or something like that, or work on projects that are taller. What I ended up doing was building this whole thing on a platform that can be hooked up to cables that go up to the ceiling, so that when I lose interest in it, which I inevitably will, I can just put it away. And then I can use the space for something else. Right now, there's one of those bar-sized pool table, hence the pool table kind of light that's over this. So when this is up, there's a pool table and I can play pool or whatnot. But again, pool also is one of those things that I will get interested in for a little while as just a pastime sort of thing. I'm not any good. So I also put the pool table on those wheels that you can kind of shimmy a table up onto and then move. Some people use them for piano moving, Home Depot or Lowe's, that kind of stuff, those big staircases that they move around. They have the little foot switch that raises it up onto wheels. So I installed those onto the pool table. So this whole thing can also go up onto wheels and I can move it around out of the way if I want to work on something else right here. But the idea being that being able to raise this, I also have a project table under this that I can detach, move the slot car setup, and have a table here for projects. And then I can attach it, lift it back up, and then have the pool table. So when I was first installing this, one of the problems that I had was, how do you have a light system that can maintain in any of the positions that you're in, right? So I finally came up with this idea, and what this is actually like a gate system that you would have a big, like a driveway gate on. So there's these big rods that screw in, and this kind of chassis sits on those rods. And then I connect this to here, and the whole thing swivels. So I can swivel it out of the way when I want to lift this up, and then I can swing it back when it's in the next position or whatnot. But anyway, the track itself is Scalextric. There's kind of two major brands, it seems like. There's Scalextric, and then there's another brand called Carrera, that's very similar to the Carrera. It's a little more spaced out, so you can use a little bit bigger cars. So one of the things with this is that, when you buy these sets, you can get the little edges and the fencing and all that kind of stuff. But I, being into 3D printing and CAD and all that kind of stuff, wanted to kind of make my own system. So that's what this is. This is a fence system that detaches and attaches to the track with little plastic clips that clip into the groove that the fencing that you would get with these tracks goes into. Because I wanted there to be room to kind of slide out, but I wanted also to have a system where you could have fencing so that when you hit a corner too fast, your car doesn't fly off the table. And then of course you want to have the track lit so you can do, darker, because some of the cars have headlights and stuff. And so I wanted it to be lit, and I had never really messed around with individually addressable RGB lights, which some call pixel lights. It's kind of like a string of lights, like Christmas tree lights, but they're RGB LEDs that you can run specialized hardware to actually change each individual light in the string to different colors, and you can do effects, all that kind of stuff. And then that journey took me to trying to find a system that does that out of the box, and there are some, but they're limiting. They only do the certain functions that they do, and also how many lights you have really changes what kind of programs you can do for different patterns of lights changing or fading and that kind of stuff. Also, I wanted to be able to have other lights on this same kind of circuit that were not part of a pattern, right? So that they were like stationary lights at certain other parts of the track, right? So I came up with these little street lights that actually I designed to be clamped down into the brackets that hold the fencing together on this. And so basically it's this little unit here that this slides off of, and then you can put one of these LEDs in here, like this. And then this thing has the groove for the wires, and it slides over the end. And the wire goes into the channel, and you get this little street light. And then I printed little clear filament, little shields for this so that the LED wasn't just out in the open. So they're kind of like, street lights with like a shade. So then I got into learning how to program Arduino, which is a little circuit board that looks like this. You can get smaller versions of this. Pretty sure this is the Uno, pretty basic. But anyway, you can write some basic programs to change what is happening with the lights. And then I set it up so that it has a push button that essentially changes the function that it's running for the lighting setup. So I can give you a little demo of that. Here's the button that I was talking about. Right now, this is just hooks right up to the board, and then in the programming, you can detect when it's pushed. And when you push it, it changes to different patterns. A lot of these tracks that people build do it with this big diorama, like trees and mountains and stuff. And I've always really liked that stuff too. But I want to do it a little bit different. Most of those tracks that you see have a lot of the race paraphernalia, like the Dunlop tire tunnel thing, and grandstands with little figurines, with binoculars and stuff like that, or like a garage or that kind of stuff. And that stuff's cool, but I want to do something a little bit different and do the landscaping, because I've always thought it'd be fun to do that with the static grass and rocks and stuff and trees. I've always really been into steampunk stuff too, all of the kind of brass and the bronze and tubing and gauges and cool little stuff like that. So I'm gonna make it landscape, but also with steampunk stuff. So I've kind of started, at least in the painting, on when I was doing all of the fencing and the lights and everything, it's all kind of bronze, like brush bronze. Instead of garages and cars and grandstands and that kind of stuff, I'll make more art-based kind of installations around the track. So the idea is that in the long run, I'll have this kind of, it's essentially a functional art piece, right? Where it was fun to create, it's fun to look at, but also if you want to race on it, you can, which is just a bonus, right? And then when I lose interest or when I want to play pool, I can just raise the whole thing up to the ceiling and put it away until I'm interested in it again. So that's what's going on here. I'll probably make more videos in the future as this progresses. As right now, you can see it's just the track. I just have got it to the point where the whole track is in the position that I want. I've got the whole thing wired for lights. I'm gonna start building the big pieces of landscape around it now, probably out of foam and paper mache or that kind of stuff. We'll see. That's a journey. And I'll probably make some videos along the way. So if you're interested in seeing that stuff, follow. And so you'll see that in your feed or whatever, however you take it. So yeah, that's my racetrack.